In the wake of World War II and the Korean War, the modern battlefield was undergoing a transformation. The old tactics of massed infantry charges were being replaced by guerrilla warfare and dispersed assaults. Traditional landmines, which triggered upon contact and detonated without discrimination, proved increasingly inadequate for the changing face of conflict. What militaries needed was a smarter solution, something that could focus its destructive force like a scalpel, rather than scatter it like a hammer. On the battlefield, it's more than just hydration, it's survival. And for that, every soldier relies on a tool so mundane, it's often overlooked. Work on a device that could channel explosive energy in a single, deadly direction. It would not be buried beneath the earth, waiting for pressure, it would face the enemy directly, discharging a curtain of lethal shrapnel on command. His prototype, known as the T-48, was the first practical, directional anti-personnel mine. McLeod's invention caught the attention of the United States Army, which had been exploring similar ideas through its own research facilities. By the mid-1950s, American ordnance experts at Picatinny Arsenal and the Explosive Research Laboratory began collaborating with McLeod to refine the concept. Their goal was a weapon that could deliver overwhelming anti-personnel firepower, on demand, with the goal of minimal risk to friendly forces. War, tin canteens covered with cloth, felt, or canvas for insulation were common. Though awkward, prone to dents, and not very spacious, they served their purpose. In 1960, that the fully refined version, the M18A1 Claymore, entered widespread production and use. This updated design included a convex olive-drab plastic casing measuring about 8.5 inches wide and 3.25 inches high. Inside, engineers packed 1.5 pounds (0.68 kilograms) of composition C4, a highly stable and powerful plastic explosive. Embedded in front of the explosive layer were 700 steel spheres, each 1/8 inch (3.2 mm) in diameter. These were molded into a resin matrix, ensuring uniform dispersion upon detonation. When triggered, the M18A1 discharged this deadly payload in a 60-degree arc, with fragments traveling at speeds of over 4,000 feet per second. Lethal within 50 meters and dangerous up to 250 meters, depending on terrain features. It was not designed for random destruction, but for deliberate, command-detonated engagement. Soldiers could observe the battlefield and activate the Claymore when enemy forces were ideally positioned for maximum effect. One of the mine's most iconic features was also one of its simplest, the embossed warning on its face that read "Front toward enemy." This was no joke. In the chaos of war, with high stress and minimal time, this simple instruction could mean the difference between eliminating a threat or mistakenly unleashing destruction on one's own men. Control of the mine was achieved using the M57 firing device, nicknamed the Chaclaca. It generated an electric current via a hand-squeeze mechanism, sending the signal through a firing wire connected to the mine's M for electric blasting cap. This manual, deliberate activation method distinguished the Claymore from traditional landmines, which activated indiscriminately. By the time US forces escalated their presence in Vietnam, the M18A1 Claymore had become a frontline staple. Whether protecting the perimeter of a fire base, covering ambush sites, or denying the enemy use of jungle trails, the Claymore offered troops a tactical advantage grounded in precision and fearsome power. But its legacy was only beginning. Unlike conventional landmines, the Claymore didn't wait for the enemy to step on it. It was set up, aimed, and then patiently observed by the soldiers who deployed it. In a war where American patrols were routinely shadowed by Viet Cong guerrillas, the ability to trigger a blast exactly when needed made the Claymore invaluable. Weighing only 3.5 pounds (1.6 kilograms), the mine could be carried in large numbers and deployed quickly along jungle trails, hilltops, and perimeter defenses. US soldiers and Marines frequently strung Claymores along defensive lines, their tripwires and command wires hidden beneath foliage. At night, as the darkness settled in, the quiet clacker, the M57's firing device was kept close at hand, ready to send a jolt of electricity down the line. The Claymore's effectiveness wasn't just in what it could do, but in the fear it inspired. Enemy fighters quickly learned to respect and fear the semicircle of death it projected. The knowledge that a single mine, invisible in the undergrowth, could wipe out an entire squad, sent psychological ripples across the battlefield. Special operations units, such as the Navy SEALs, Green Berets, and LRRPs, long-range reconnaissance patrols, came to rely on the Claymore for both offense and defense. In ambushes, it delivered devastating opening salvos. In base camps and jungle hideouts, it served as an early warning system, a force multiplier, and a final line of defense. One of the most well-documented field uses of the Claymore was during Operation Starlight in 1965, the first major offensive action conducted solely by U.S. Marines in Vietnam. In multiple engagements, the Claymore was used to devastating effect, halting Viet Cong advances before they could reach American lines. Retired Navy SEAL Captain Rick Woolard, who served multiple combat tours in Vietnam, once noted the Claymore as the most reliable friend you could have in a hostile jungle. He recalled missions where Claymores were used not only for ambushes, but as a safeguard while resting. "You'd sleep with one eye open and your hand on the clacker," he said. If anything moved, you had less than a second to respond. But with great power came the need for great caution. Improper orientation, careless placement, or mistaken detonation could, and sometimes did, lead to friendly fire incidents. That's why the Claymore's simple warning, "front toward enemy," became almost legendary. It wasn't just a slogan, it was a life-saving reminder burned into the consciousness of every soldier who handled one. Despite the risks, the advantages far outweighed them. The Claymore gave American forces a unique edge in Vietnam's chaotic, close-quarters, combat environment. It allowed them to pre-plan destruction, to anticipate enemy movements, and to turn the terrain itself into a trap. After Vietnam, the Claymore didn't fade into obscurity. It continued to serve in every major U.S. conflict. From the Gulf War, where it was used to secure perimeters and prevent infiltrations, to Iraq and Afghanistan, where it protected forward operating bases and mountain outposts, the Claymore proved as relevant in the 21st century as it had been in the 1960s. Its design has changed very little since the introduction of the M18A1. The curved casing, the steel balls, the C4, these elements remain virtually untouched. In a military world of drones, satellites, and laser-guided munitions, the Claymore is a reminder that sometimes simplicity is power. Today, the M18A1 Claymore is still part of the standard U.S. infantry kit and is also used by many Allied forces. Its longevity isn't an accident, it's the result of decades of proven effectiveness. It is a weapon that does not forget, does not flinch, and only acts when told to act. The Claymore mine may be small, but its legacy is enormous. From the jungles of Vietnam to the mountains of Afghanistan, it has stood guard beside generations of soldiers, silent, patient, and deadly. It is not just a tool of war. It is war, focused into a single, terrible moment.